this is my review of Death Note. Okay, so this episode is interesting, mainly because it's kind of one of those static one place kind of episodes. It's like one of those things where like a lot of things happen, but it's all in one location. But this one is very significant to the plot of the series. So starting off, Light relinquishes Misa's Death Note, which causes Rem to no longer be tethered to Light, and then she flies away. So but before she leaves, she remarks that he kept a promise and he needs to actually keep an eye on Misa and make sure she stays safe. Which Light agrees to do. And sure enough, Light has an idea. So as long as he still has one Death Note, all of his memories of Rem remain. So he remembers Rem even though he doesn't have her Death Note anymore. So long as he has his own, that's sufficient enough. And sure enough, he has another plan. He buried his own Death Note and says that he'll relinquish his Death Note when he next says the words "get rid of it," regardless of the context. So basically, he's playing very carefully and is only making sure that he says the words "get rid of it" when he feels like the time is ready. And with that, he actually leaves and is revealed to go to where headquarters is. So, meanwhile, Misa has woken up and she doesn't remember a thing. Everybody initially believes that she's playing dumb, but the fact of the matter is that because she no longer relinquished control of her Death Note, she kind of just lost all of her memories, save for the fact that she thinks she's been kidnapped by some sort of stalker and that Light Yagami is her boyfriend. That's the only memory she has. And everybody's a little bit confused because one, there's evidence to convict Misa, so it's a little bit confusing why she would suddenly decide to play dumb to it. And two, she was very tight-lipped about all of this stuff earlier, so why is she just suddenly spouting all of these things? As the task force and L in particular try to contemplate why she suddenly had a change of heart, L actually gets a call on his cell phone from Light, who has turned himself in, basically. And sure enough, he shows up a few minutes later and expresses his concerns that he might be Kira, which shocks everybody in the room. So he basically confesses to the fact that he's Kira, but he has a bit of a caveat. He implies that he isn't entirely sure that if he's doing it consciously or not. As he points out, all of the evidence points to him, but he's also convinced that he might actually be killing people subconsciously and isn't entirely 100% sure what to believe. And L naturally expresses his doubts because as he mentions and finally brings up in this episode, he placed surveillance cameras in Light's house and Light did nothing. So he's convinced that something is up regarding Light, pointing out that if Light was in fact Kira, the surveillance tapes would have shown him doing something subconsciously, but that's not the case. But sure enough, Light tries to reinforces his point, pointing out that he's also been wishing for a bunch of criminals to die subconsciously, which several of the task force members step in and point out that doesn't necessarily confirm he's Kira, since there's a lot of people who point out that sometimes they feel like the world is a bit unfair and that some people should, in fact, die because they're causing problems for everybody else. Not that they would necessarily do it. That's the message that this scene is supposed to convey, but that everybody has these thoughts and they're completely normal, and also that the cameras completely unjustify Light's theory. Although L points out not entirely, since the fact of the matter is that there's also a lot of opportunities for Light to kill people while he's not at home, and point out that there's a very good possibility that he could have done something while he was out. So, and sure enough, Light, to try and assuage any sort of, to try and clear his name, has himself committed to solitary confinement, similar to Misa. And sure enough, L agrees to his request and has him detained. So So Light is put into solitary confinement and left on his own. And Soichiro, who has been leading the investigation up to this point, finally confronts L about it and points out that he can't continue on the case, pointing out that that he can't really bear to see his son being treated the way he is, and that he wants himself put into solitary confinement, since he doesn't know what he'll do if he finds out that his son is Kira, and he wants to basically for his own safety as well as everybody else's, he wants him to be put in solitary confinement as well. And L agrees to this, and L actually does agree to this on the grounds that Soichiro still be kept in the loop. He's kept in contact with his friends and family, and he's told that to keep his cell phone on so that he could get any sort of calls. But also that they shouldn't let anybody else know what's going on, specifically Light, who is also in solitary confinement, and as far as he knows, his dad is still at headquarters. So basically keep that little tidbit of information away from Light. But in any case, after this point, Soichiro, Light, and Misa are all in solitary confinement. Light is basically still playing into the fact that he's may or may not be Kira, but Misa is still denying everything. She doesn't know what's going on because she's already relinquished control of her Death Note, so she has no idea what she's going on or why she's there. But every time people probe her, she just refers to L as Mr. Stalker. So she doesn't know what's going on. But after a few days, the police start to notice a pattern. Since Light has been detained, the killings have stopped. So, which kind of slowly solidifies the point that Light might be Kira, albeit even if it is subconsciously. And sure enough, L is concerned because it's a little bit too easy. As he points out, Light now being in solitary confinement and also Kira stopping cold turkey at around the same time is a little suspicious, and he's a little interested into why that is. He's not entirely sure what's going on, but he does feel it's a little suspicious because all this is doing is solidifying the point that Light might be Kira. But after a few days, L finally calls Light over the intercom and asks him how he's doing. To which point, and asks him if he's willing to confess now. At which point, Light actually points out and finally relinquishes control of his Death Note by pretending that he's going to be get rid of his useless pride. At which point, Ryoku's been hanging around this whole time, just kind of waiting for those exact words. Finally pieces out and says goodbye to Light, and then leaves. At which point, a switch flips in Light's brain, and he's suddenly a completely different person. So yeah, Light, as we knew him up to this point, was cold and calculating. He was one of those no business type deals who was just in his own head, and he would just think. That was the kind of person he was. He was a very analytical person. But suddenly he becomes this irrational mess of a person who doesn't really understand why he's there. He remembers everything leading up to that point. How he basically asked L to put him into solitary confinement, and how L agreed, but he doesn't remember anything about Kira because now he's relinquished control of his Death Note. So now he's gone from I might be Kira to I'm not Kira, and that's suddenly started to throw all the investigative team off, and they're not entirely sure what's going on. But that's not necessarily enough to clear Light's name because Light specifically mentioned no matter what he said, he would never be let go. So he's still in there for almost a little over a week after that. So it's about 2 weeks since Light was put into solitary confinement, but suddenly, out of the blue, the killings start again. And Matsura, who we met up to this point, so I'm not going to picture him. But Matsura, i.e. one of the major parts of the task force, actually comes in with the good news about how the killings have started again. And while it's not exactly a good thing that people are dying, it does theoretically clear Light's name since the killings have suddenly just started up again. And sure enough, in comes Soichiro to tell him this, but L basically shuts down the fact that Matsura should tell Light, since he wants to see what Light's reaction is to the fact that he's been in solitary confinement and the killings have stopped for 2 weeks, even though that's a blatant lie, which we know. But sure enough, Light is still completely adamant that he's not Kira, and is pointing out and is denying the fact that he's killed anybody, saying that he was most likely set up. So L is still a little concerned, and to confirm his suspicions, he then calls up Misa on her intercom and asks her what she thinks about Kira and about this whole situation. At which point she points out that Kira actually saved her, and that she views him as a hero. So she has no memories as well, but she still remembers the fact that Kira saved her life. So L is completely concerned because now he's completely confused. His two suspects are now both completely ignorant, and also seem to only regard to Kira, provided the fact that they don't have no memories of who Kira is. So their memories have been altered a little bit, but they still don't know that they're Kira anymore, which is interesting. It's like a switch just flipped in their brain. Suddenly the memories are gone, and they don't remember the fact that they were ever Kira in the first place. It's as I said, this episode is very important to the plot, but it's also a little bit weird because it's like they're a completely different person. It just suddenly flips. They're no longer Kira. All their memories are gone, and now they're just two completely different people. They're just ordinary people now, which is weird. But also, it's interesting that the killings have started again. We know that Rem and Ryuk still have their death notes now that Light and Misa have both relinquished both of them. So it's a little weird. So now we know that that's most likely that Ryuk gave his death note to another person, and that third person has become another Kira. But it hasn't been directly stated if there is indeed a third Kira. But what's interesting about this is that the killing started, but L's a little hesitant to let go since Light is his prime suspect, and he wants to know his reaction. So yeah, overall this episode's just really weird. It establishes that the death. I knew the death note would be like it's gonna erase their memory, so they have no memory of the death note. That's been explained, but the way it works is just really weird in this episode. It's almost as if they're completely different people. Like their memories of the death note and killing people are gone, and it just left them with whatever memories were left, which means that Light only remembers that he was being investigated as Kira, but doesn't remember having actually been Kira. So what was normally a back and forth between him and L this whole time, a game of cat and mouse, has suddenly just become him just being like, I don't remember any of this. I'm not Kira. Let me go. It's weird. It's just really weird. But in any case, yeah, that's my review of Death Note. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that I'm always saying thanks. So be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!